Hey, what is up, everybody? My name is Mario Picciardo, and welcome to another episode of Methods, a podcast about being real, growing, and finding meaning. In today's episode, I kind of want to talk about something that is, I think, frowned upon by mainstream science, quote unquote. I think frowned upon by a lot of what you'll hear and what you'll read about online. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the people that I follow uh, was on YouTube was made a video where he was talking about this poor woman whose book got taken off of Amazon on the basis that Amazon said, oh, we're trying to combat vaccine misinformation. And so Amazon took her book off of the Amazon store, and it was a book about autism, um, how to heal autism, I believe it's called. The woman's name is Carrie something, but anyway, she runs a website called Keto Carrie. That's KETOKERRI, Keto Carrie. And on that website, she promotes a lot of natural cures, a lot of natural remedies. And Carrie had the unfortunate case of, I think, just being the target of this kind of, I guess, big pharma push to take people off the air who disagree with mainstream vaccine information. And I think it's very unfortunate because, what we're starting to see is a lot of social media cracking down on the people and the things that the people's ability to be able to decide for themselves what they want to see, what they want to have access to, being able to look up and things like that. For example, for a lot of people, going online, going on YouTube, going on places like this have been zones where people could learn about alternative information, let's say, alternative news sources that don't follow a scripted narrative, like MSNBC or CNN. And so, there's an entire alternative news network out there. I shouldn't say network because it's really independent. Groups of people who own channels who talk about things that the mainstream would never cover, and that's things from, are vaccines really safe for people to be taking? A lot of people question the vaccine research that's out there, and stuff like that is good, because we should never have, if you look at the news organizations, they're owned by 6 corporations. They own all of the news organizations. So, of course, I think it's very dangerous to concentrate the power of the mass media into 6 organizations. Why? Because it opens such a big door for corruption, for associations amongst these news organizations. And, competition is good. Competition is great for the people. But to have organizations like Amazon, deciding what people are allowed to see is scary. Why? Because look at how big Amazon is getting. Amazon is, I think the last evaluation of Amazon that I saw was over $1 trillion. Amazon is very quickly becoming the most valuable company in the entire world. At least the biggest tech company in the entire world. Overtaking Apple by the sheer amount of services that it's offering. And if it hasn't already, it will. And to have a single, company like that, when a lot of, at least the younger generation, thinks about, okay, well, what should I buy? What should I get? They think about, okay, let me buy, I need I don't know. Oh, I want to get this DVD. Oh, I want to get, uh, I don't know, this book. Oh, I want to get, a bin to hold my whatever. A lot of the younger generation will go online and look for things that they can use online in order to fill whatever need it is that they have. And it's concerning when Amazon is so big as this huge place where everybody can just get everything that they want to get, do everything that they need to do, when it's the only place that people could really go besides a brick and mortar store. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Amazon's catalog of things is so much bigger and so much more convenient. It's going to continue to grow. And what's that going to do to the brick and mortar? What's going to happen to Barnes and Nobles? What happens when you can only get your books through Amazon, and Amazon is blacklisting books that it doesn't want people to see? Where else are we as consumers supposed to be able to go to get that kind of information? Because Google has already said that they are cracking down on people who go to YouTube for alternative information, and their the scapegoat is to say, well, Adam Schiff, U.S. representative, asked us to crack down on vaccine misinformation, so of course we're going to do it. The concern that I have with that model or that way of doing things is, what does that then mean for people who, what precedent does that set for future generations? What precedent does that set for tech companies? For anybody who is now, going out there and trying to learn about alternative truth, learn about, well, maybe I don't want to follow the official narrative of, say, 9/11. Maybe there is more to that. And now people don't even have an avenue to explore that, because a lot of mainstream media is saying, no. Google and, even Twitter, with the banning of conservatives, with the removal of conservative comment, and they'll say, well, it violates our policy of hate speech or whatever. But why are tech companies allowed to be the arbiters of truth, or the arbiters, the decision makers as to what content is suitable for other people? I mean, YouTube comes out and they say, well, your content isn't suitable for most advertisers on a lot of conservative channels, on a lot of independent news organization channels. And they're saying, oh, you can't monetize anything anymore because your content doesn't go along with what we want people to hear. I mean, that's really what's happening, because they're deciding that, well, no, this speech is hate speech, therefore it shouldn't be spoken of. I mean, just look at Twitter. So many conservatives have gotten kicked off of Twitter, and that's concerning. It's become more of an echo chamber for liberal voices than anywhere else. And the sad part about it is that if we let this go, I think the way that it's been going for a while, then what is there going to be left? But except for these same voices, the same people to go out there and spew the same ideas, like hate speech, that, oh, if you don't agree with us, you're bad because it means that you're xenophobic. If you don't agree that we should tear all the borders down, even though there's the highest number of illegal immigrant crossings ever in the United States, or very close to. We're at a national level. The airwaves, that 90% of the media coverage of Trump has been negative. And yet half of the country, more than half that voted for him. He went into office. But the media coverage of that same candidate is not representative of the ideological bent of the nation. In fact, it's heavily slanted. 90%, it's heavily slanted towards an anti-Trump position. So where's the representation of the people there? And so there's a lot. I mean, listen, trust me, I don't want this, this podcast to be about things that are bad or things that are negative. But the fact of the matter is that these are things that are happening in real time, where articles are coming out today saying, oh, there's this, oh, there's that, oh, there's that. It's finally, and look at the rhetoric, look at the op-eds, and they're almost always, if you're the Washington Post, if you're the New York Times, if you're CNN, if you're MSNBC, if you're any of these left-leaning news organizations, you're going to be going against everything possible that comes out of a Republican or President Trump's mouth. Everything. You just disagree with it automatically. I mean, it's just like the bent, it's the idea. And yet, if you are on the opposite side of the spectrum where you don't, where are the articles saying, okay, we agree with the president, but that's it. There's no, we agree with him, but it's just that we agree with him. He's doing a good job. Where's that representation? In a lot of the media, it's disconcerting. I was hearing that Captain Marvel just came out, and there's a very, obvious representation where, there's the Skrull, and then there's, which is the enemy faction in the movie, and there's another faction in the movie, and there's a very clear allegory there to illegal immigration. And so there's that little bent there in Hollywood. And then just think about all the celebrities. I was listening to, and it was sad because I saw this in a video. There was this woman, this model, who was talking about her fear that in the fashion industry, as her job as being a model, she ran into a lot of instances where she, no matter what, she tried to stay out of politics when she was doing her shoots, when she was, conversing with people professionally. She could not get away from the fact that people, when they were speaking to her, they just kept bringing up Trump. Oh, look at what Trump just did. Oh, did you hear what just happened? She tried to stay away from it, but no matter where she went, not only were people very willing to talk about politics and doing so openly, but they were slamming the president, and they were slamming just this conservative viewpoint on everything. And so she felt like she couldn't really say anything because her job would be threatened. She was afraid that her coming out and saying something would just cause a lot of tension. And she literally said she felt like it would have destroyed her career. But finally, and there's a video about it where she talks about the whole experience that she's had. She says, I decided that I have to do it because I don't agree. I can't just let this happen. I can't just let, and that's what we need to do too, is, be willing to have those conversations. And it's hard because if you do it at the workplace, that's dangerous. That could really impact your job. I mean, that's how misaligned or how toxic the rhetoric has been, where it's become either you're with me or you're against me. And if you're against me and you're my family member or my friend or my coworker, that's it. I don't care. That's how toxic, how divisive, and I have to say it how it is. That's how toxic the leftist, Democrat, liberal, socialists have made it. They've made it incredibly toxic. They've turned the rhetoric up to 11. They've claimed that Republicans are all racists. When we hear some of the most terrible things coming out of the left, and they won't say anything about it. So it's like they control the news. The news is heavily slanted Democratic. They have control of Hollywood. All these celebrities coming out, everybody openly. I mean, there's videos on the internet of people wearing MAGA hats, and these leftists coming up and either punching them in the face, literally punching them in the back of the head, getting into fights with them, trying to tear their hats off, throwing drinks in their face. These are real things that happen every single day. It's a war zone. I don't know how else to say it. It is. And these are casualties. And these are the things that are being propped up by the very same media that YouTube and Amazon and Apple are saying these are safe and good for advertisers. That advertisers want these guys. You don't want the mainstream sources. They want the MSNBCs. They want the New York Times. They want the Washington Post. They want, et cetera, et cetera. But they do not want to see these other voices or these other names or these other places. And I really have to step out here and say, where is anybody on this? Where is the legislation to say that we have an internet bill of rights as well, where the freedom of expression or the right to free speech will be protected? Because I don't think we can get away from it. Social media has really become public town hall. I mean, it is to some degree, to some level. We have to say, listen, if Facebook is going to start to decide, okay, we can show you the news, then why are they also at the same time being allowed to take off posts or articles that people put up that aren't, morally egregious, where they're posting videos of violence, of bloody encounters, when they're not posting those kinds of things? Why can't someone post a video and say, hey, this thing about vaccines might be true? At what point did we say it was okay for tech companies to become the arbiters of what's true and what's not? And I think it's dangerous. I think it's incredibly dangerous. I don't see anybody stepping up about it. I don't see the coverage of that anywhere at all. And so, to be honest, it's our fault as members of the general public. I mean, what are we doing to let the congressmen, the congresswomen, the senators, even on the local level, it's our fault because we didn't do it. I mean, listen, when you vote, when you're 18, if you're 16 even, you have an opportunity to influence those around you. And that opportunity goes lost because people are lost in their own lives. But what they don't realize is that, well, that's your right, is to not vote. But at the same time, your decision ultimately impacts the rest of society. It does. The fact that we've allowed this kind of thing to happen and that it will continue to get worse, to the point where it's like, okay, well, now nobody can say anything. Now you're just going to get straight up banned, which a lot of people have, by the way, on sites like YouTube, on places like Twitter, even Pinterest said no vaccine content at all is going to be allowed on this platform. And I'm not even saying that vaccines are bad. I'm just saying that the ability even to have a conversation about it has been completely removed. When I saw this clip, and I strongly recommend that you go look this up, of this man. It was an episode of The Doctors, which is a popular show that airs on TV, where there's this panel of doctors and they get up on front and center stage and they talk. They sometimes they have guests on. Think about it like an Ellen show kind of thing. It's that kind of show where you have a panel of doctors and they're just having casual conversations. Oh, make sure you get your teeth clean, floss, X, Y, and Z. It's like a popular show. And I recommend you go look up this episode where I just can't believe they aired it. I thought that was insane that they didn't cut that part of the episode out, or they didn't just not air the episode at all. But so what happens is that there's this man who's in the audience, and I don't remember how it happened, but anyway, so there becomes a conversation between the man and one of the doctors. And what one of the doctors says is, he says, well, I think the one thing we can all agree upon is the fact that, vaccines are safe and they're good for people, and it's fine. I think it's the one thing we can all agree on. And he says, and then, but I'd be willing to have a debate about it. I'd be willing to, I think we're all open to that. And the guy turns around and he says, well, hold on. That's not true. That vaccines, how could you say that? He says, that is a bogus statement. And he says it's a bogus statement because the only research that's ever been done, because the doctor says that the one thing I think we can all agree upon is that there's no correlation between vaccines and autism. He said, I think that's the one thing we can all agree on. And so the guy turns around and he says that is a bogus statement. A bogus statement. And this guy, you can tell he's very emotional in his response. He's very, you can tell it matters to him. And he says, that is a bogus statement. And the other guy, he said, and the guy doesn't say anything. The guy from the audience just continues. And he says, that is a bogus statement. That is a bogus statement because how many studies have been done on how many of these vaccines out of, I think he says 36 or something like that, out of 36. And then he says, how many? He says 2. There have been 2 studies. 2 out of the 36 vaccines. And then he says, how many ingredients from those vaccines have actually been clinically studied? And then he says, one. And so then he says, so saying that they're safe and that there's been no correlation proven, and that's an important statement, that there's been no correlation proven, or that it's been that it's been proven that there is not a correlation, is completely false. Is the argument that the man makes, because there's been such little research that it is impossible for that statement to be made. And he's basically saying that, listen, this isn't true at all. You cannot say that there's no correlation, literally, because because the research isn't there to back it up. It's like a false statement being, spread. And so who's really who? And then if that's true, circling back around, who is Amazon, Twitter, YouTube, Google, everybody, to censor or decide what the people have the right to see? And on what basis? Because just to say, oh, it's misinformation, well, who decided that? Because, it's incredible. There's an association of doctors, physicians, and surgeons. I don't got the name. I don't have the name right. I'm sorry about that. But who've made a public statement about it. And they've said, listen, it's reckless. I'm paraphrasing. It's reckless to say that there's no correlation between autism and vaccines, because I think they were the only body to really come out here and say this, that no one's proven that there isn't. No one. Because the research isn't there. That's what they say in their statement. They said there's no conclusive research at all. The research is dismal to say that there is for certainty no link between vaccines and autism. There's no research to say that there isn't. And, it's incredible. The number of testimonies out there of women just talking about their children and saying, no, he was totally fine before and after. It was only when he got this vaccination. One of the documentaries that Amazon pulled is a documentary called Vaxxed that was vilified during the review season. And what that documentary essentially talks about is as a CDC whistleblower, who's not the only one. There have been more that have come out since, who unequivocally state that, they have internally done their own research at the CDC, saying that vaccines do cause autism, particularly for Black children and Black kids who are young kids. I mean, the correlation's there, specifically for that group. And then look at other ones. Look at the Gardasil vaccine. Look at HPV. And so, it's disconcerting, because who are we allowing to make these decisions? But more importantly, what are we doing about it? I mean that really. How many times does someone need to hear that it's our job to step up before we start to step up? I really mean that. This is us. This is us, baby. And I don't know what else to say about it. So Carrie Keto, this woman who got kicked off of the air, well, her book got taken off of Amazon, was a book about healing autism. And she talks about different methodologies, different things you could use to do it. One of the things that she talks about is using something called sodium chlorite to create chlorine dioxide. And the amount of misinformation floating around about chlorine dioxide is astounding to me. For example, if you Google chlorine dioxide, you'll see a Wikipedia link that'll say that it is a industrial bleach, which is not the full answer there. Anything used in certain concentrations, right, can be deadly, can hurt people. But the amount of misinformation out there, you can't even do a Google search anymore to kind of start to see the truth. Google has changed its algorithms so that anything that, they don't want people to see, people don't see anymore. Anything Big Pharma doesn't want people to see, they don't see anymore. If you do a quick search for vaccines or thimerosal, which is a chemical component in vaccines, which I did a little while ago. The very first link, I think it was the first link, but is a thing saying, "Oh, is thimerosal in vaccines dangerous?" And you click on it, and of course, it's the CDC website where they say, "Oh no, it's totally fine. There's no issues here." And you start to question. I mean, I just couldn't help but say to myself, I was like, "Well, is this real or is this the Big Pharma answer?" And the more that I was reading about it, the more I was like, I don't know. The world, I think the internet is so different today than from what it was even 5 years ago, where even if it was a topic that people didn't want you to know about, at least it was online and at least you could find it. Now it's like, it's really getting to that censorship point where it's like, no. If Google doesn't want you to see it, if Amazon doesn't want you to know about it, then you're never going to find it. Now if you try to search up alternative news websites for anything, the very first results for the first page, I think for the first 2 pages in some cases, are all MSNBC links, CNN links. They're all mainstream media source links. And that's sad because it's like, you can have a video that has millions of views, but you'll get the CNN link that has only 7,000. And you'll find that 2 million guy on the 5th page, if even. And so it's literally buried. I mean, who's honestly going to go to the 6th page? They're not, and they know that. So it's sad. But now there are ways to circumvent it. I mean, you can go on websites like DuckDuckGo and type in the same exact search result, the same exact search term in DuckDuckGo, which is a privacy based search engine. So how like when you search on Google tracks everything you do, it assigns you an ID. DuckDuckGo doesn't do that. In fact, that's the whole shtick of DuckDuckGo, is that it says, okay, you want to search on my website, it's fine. We're not going to track anything that you do. We're not going to manipulate any of the search because it's completely anonymous. That's the whole point. And so if you search the same search terms in DuckDuckGo, you actually get the real rankings for YouTube. So if I search in, YouTube.com or whatever, and then whatever the search term that I want to see is, I think there's like a colon or something you have to use, but for the search result, you actually get the results listed by the most viewed content. So you can actually now see the things that YouTube has buried. So there's a way to circumvent it, but it just proves the point, which is that all these things, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if a video has 3 million views, why is it buried on the 8th page? So, I don't know. I mean, the fact that all this is happening, we have to be honest. It's our fault. It's your fault. If you're listening to this, it's my fault too, but it's your fault. It's both of our faults. But the fact of the matter is, and there's this idea of dissolved responsibility or diffused responsibility where it hurts less because, well, it's not only my fault, but the fact of the matter is like, if we keep that mentality going, this is the same mentality with taxes, by the way, where people say, oh, I don't care how they spend the money because you think it's your neighbor's money and your neighbor thinks that it's your money. That's the running joke, that you guys are both getting swindled, but you're both okay with it because you've been tricked into thinking that it's the other guy's. Listen, when you get that 30%, 35%, 40% taken out of your taxes, I don't care what they spend it on. That's your money. Because the budget, it doesn't matter. The budget's getting paid anyway. The budget's getting filled up. It's coming out of your wallet. And if they pass one amendment to increase it 10%, I mean, you hear Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to increase people's taxes. It's very disingenuous because she says, oh, I'm going to tax the rich at 70%. But because of how the tax rates work, that means that we're going to be paying 60, 70%. And a lot of people don't pick up on that fact. Our tax rates are going to double. That's the disingenuous part, but nobody wants to talk about that on the news. There's a lot going on, and I think I'd be very concerned. There's a lot of things that people don't realize. Um, so Carrie gets kicked off of Amazon. But my question really is, what does this mean for the next generation? I mean, if we're moving, based on sales of digital items, if our books are going to become digital books now, then and Amazon can just arbitrarily decide to remove books. And by the way, I've read about cases where Amazon has actually went onto people's Kindle devices and deleted books from their own account, where Amazon has closed people's accounts who own books to the point where those people cannot access their content anymore. Well, what does that mean for those people? That's scary. I look at that and I say, oh no. This is not good. What are we doing? What's going on? That we got to a point where we're saying, okay, well, we're just going to take people off the air. Like that's it. What does that mean for any book that we have now? There's this guy who wrote a book. His name was Roosh something. There were some articles that went up about him, some dirty, slandering articles saying he's a misogynist, whatever. Anyway, he writes a book. So he's like he has a lot of success with girls, and so he writes a book, and he says, oh, in this book, this is how I did it. And but in some of that book, he has a lot of rhetoric about, is 9/11 true and stuff like that. And not to say that that's the reason why he gets taken off, but the certain topics that he brings up, Amazon just decides to remove his book, and they say, oh, you violated our policies. But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the policies can change whenever. If Amazon decides tomorrow, oh, they want to ban anything want to expand their definition of hate speech, they can go right ahead and start removing even more books from Amazon. But what is this? What does this mean? We're turning into a society that is actively experiencing digital book burning. That should be incredibly concerning. Because again, I mean, it's a very slippery slope. Listen, you allow them to take 1 book off, 2 books off, 3 books off. Why can't they take 6 and 7 and 8? Why can't this just be Fahrenheit 451? It's scary. It's a scary time. It is a scary time. So, I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I would write letters to your local congressmen, congresswomen, senators. Get involved in your local elections. Let people know how you feel. Let people know what you're thinking. Converse about it. You have to be able to converse about it openly. And listen, when you hear people getting abused, being abused because of their political beliefs, being abused because of anything, really, I mean, there comes a point where we have to step up, where we have to go and turn to this intolerant left who claims to be tolerant and tell them no. Listen, just because I don't approve of homosexuality doesn't make me a homophobe. And I have the right to be able to express that idea. America is a land of freedom of expression, and now the town hall has become the internet. And so I think we need to really rethink the structure of how we allow things to be posted online. And some form of saying, okay, well, this person has the right to express certain things as long as they don't encourage, like childhood pedophilia, violence, as long as they don't, and there needs to be some kind of standard where people can go up and fight these things. There really does. And it's scary that it hasn't already happened, but somebody has to take the reins on this. I mean, it's like, we need to vote. We need to go write letters. I mean, it always comes back to the same idea. Because we have the power, but we're letting it slip through our fingers. We are. And it sucks. It's happening. So it's scary. I mean, it's disconcerting. But, it's happening. So there's this chemical that I've been trying out myself. It's called chlorine dioxide, which again, I said that if you search it up, you'll find, oh, it's an industrial bleach and whatever and all that stuff. I don't believe it. I really don't. There's this guy's named Jim Humble. Now, you got to be careful what you search online because, again, a lot of, I think these organizations, Big Pharma, Google, so on and so forth, have found ways to embed themselves in those top few search results, where the first couple links you'll see is bad for you, is toxic, this horrifying experience. That was one of the first articles I saw. My horrifying experience with MMS and autism and et cetera, really trying to keep people from trying this thing, to fear people into not, engaging with it. Oh, this is an industrial bleach, to scare people away. And then even the CDC, I think, or it's the EPA. No, CDC, yeah. The EPA is the Environmental Protection, right? No, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. I think it was the Food and Drug Administration or the CDC. Anyway, they come out and say, oh, no, don't drink this. Because if you drink it, you could die or be seriously bodily injured. So don't do this thing. But what they're saying is that, oh, you should not take this chemical. But from what I've been reading about it, from what I've been learning about it, from the actual sources of the people who are pushing this, listen, they're not making a profit off of this. But the claims that they're making is that sodium chlorite, mixed with an activator like citric acid to produce chlorine dioxide, is something that can actually cure or help treat serious illnesses like HIV or AIDS or other things like that. And I'm not saying that those things that the claims that are being made are necessarily true, but what I am saying is that there seems to be evidence that it does work for people. And if that is true, if there's a chance where that is possibly true, then we need to keep that avenue open and not say, oh, well, this is what's happening, this is what this person's saying. We need to seriously be open to that. And unfortunately, I think we live in a time where, and well, I guess to be honest, this isn't a new thing, but that the citizenry itself needs to be vigilant with regard to our trust in even our own government. Because remember, there can be abuses of power. Whenever things are allowed to happen behind the closed doors, there's always an opportunity for abuse. I mean, look at the CIA, with these reports that it's drug running and things like that. Listen, I'm not going to be here and say, oh, this is true, this is what's happening, this isn't what's happening. But the fact of the matter is that the civilization itself has to be vigilant. It is our job, our duty, to keep the government in check, lest we end up in another, civil war, which seems like we're at the precipice of being, or unless we end up in another need for a revolution. Listen, they're already trying to take everybody's guns away. And that's disconcerting. What's the Second Amendment say? The right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. Why is it there? Well, look at our history. Look at 1776. Why was the Revolutionary War fought? And so, there's a lot. I mean, and we're already we're the only country, America's the only country in the entire world that is guaranteed in its constitution the right to free speech, the right for someone to say something that does not agree with the majority. That is the whole point. That ability for an individual to say something against the government, against the majority, is the entire point behind the First Amendment. And we had to go to war for that right. To war. Our country was born on that notion. And to just give it away because people feel like, oh, well, you're offending this other person, you're hurting this other person's feelings. People died, literally, millions, over what was World War II fought for? For this right to exist. And, suddenly we have a generation that all of a sudden is woke. They figured it all out. They're super smart. They know for certain, oh, this has to be like this has to be like that. No. I mean, listen, as a society, it's scary. I'm scared. I'm scared for our generation. And I'm sorry to be here and be so negative, but these are things that need to be said. It's like, wow. It's incredible. I I have my Bible right here. This is one that's archaic. This is an archaic Bible. I wanted to get the earliest translation that I could. And so this is when I first became a Christian. And I saw that there's and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, I have a version of the Holy Bible 1611 edition, King James. Because the King James is the only one you should be reading, by the way. There are actual words that are missing from some of the other versions, like the NIV. Literal verses or parts of verses that are taken out that completely misconstrue the meaning of certain verses. So be very careful. I can only recommend people read the King James Version, as annoying as I know it can be for people to read sometimes. I mean, it is. I'm not going to, there's no way to go around that. But that's why we have commentaries and things like that to help us understand. But, when I first became a Christian, this is one of the first books that I picked up. The Holy Bible. Because I said, okay, well, I need to learn what God has to teach me. And even in California, they're saying that they input legislation that says, oh, you cannot have books aren't allowed to be sold in bookstores that are homophobic. So what does that mean? You can't sell the Bible? So people can't literally have the Bible, can't buy the Bible. That's insane. What happened to religious liberty? Wasn't that one of the foundations of the United States of America? It's crazy. It's crazy times. It's crazy times. But listen, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep pushing. It's going to keep growing unless we do something. Okay, we're in a fight, ladies and gentlemen. And as, Dan Bongino says on his podcast, The Dan Bongino Show, which I highly recommend you go check out and you listen to. The man does a lot of research on his own. He has a research team that does some stuff up. It's a very entertaining show to watch. But he's made it his mission to point out the leftist Democrat, lies, to shut them down because of all the misinformation that's being peddled and disingenuous things that are coming out of these organizations. And that includes Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Beto O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the whole gambit. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. And pointing out these lies, these deceptions, these eerie connections, the Mueller investigation, the probes, the everything. So I highly recommend you guys go check him out. But the fact that the book burning is happening right before us. Listen, if we let this continue, the government can take everything in the name of safety, quote unquote, in the name of equal rights or equal ability. They can go and start taking even more. Listen, I mean, they came out, they already said they wanted public health care. When somebody asked Bernie Sanders, what does that mean? Bernie said, well, and he really dances around the topic, but he really is saying, okay, no more private insurance. Everybody has to be public. You think that's really going to work? But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, to get on a lighter note here, because I feel like we've been very, very kind of down in the weeds. There are still some good things happening. There are still some good things going on. I mean, it's not all terrible. It's not all negative. It's not all awful. Oh, the world's going to fall apart, like the leftists are saying about climate change and their nonsense. There is still good left in the world. We still have the promise of Jesus Christ. We're lucky, and we're not going to lose that until he comes. So, I mean, listen, there's always an opportunity for everyone. We're still here. The world has not fallen apart. America has not fallen apart. America still has many, many years ahead of it if we as people decide to turn around and say, okay, well, you need to stop. This needs to stop today. This wall needs to go up tomorrow. It needs to go up yesterday. There's a lot of opportunity still, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of conversations that are still out there able to be had. So I'm optimistic. I really am. I really, really am. All these books behind me. I was lucky, for those of you listening on the podcast, I have a pile of books behind me that viewers can see in the video. I'm lucky I have all these books behind me that I've been able to read. Most of the ones here I've been able to read, but I've been reading a lot. And I've been able to learn and expand my mind more. Learn more about a lot of different areas of life or things in life. especially the Bible, particularly the Bible. I'm grateful that I've been able to be here to share this message with you, to be able to create these podcasts, to make these episodes and talk about so many different things, you know. I hope in the future you're not going to have other people on this podcast where we can also talk about X, Y, and Z. You know, throw more ideas out there, have more conversations. It's fun. I like it, you know, especially, you know, considering where we were from episode 1. Look, now I can just talk. You know, it's great and it's fine. And I'm getting used to it and it's good. You know, at first doing it for an hour was like so long, but I was like, I can do this. I just got to keep going and I'll get used to it. It's fine. Then we added the video. Okay, we'll do this. We'll get, you know, it's fine. So, yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. We can keep this thing going. I mean, listen, no country's going to fall apart. No organization's going to fall apart. As long as the people inside of it care enough and are willing to put in the work to keep it alive. But not just to keep it alive. Keeping something alive should not be the goal. Thriving should be the goal. Having a surplus, doing exceptionally well, should always be the goal. Always. Ladies and gentlemen, I have in front of me a brand new, well, I shouldn't say brand new now, but I have this phone. And this is all I need. I can record a video on this phone. I can record audio on this phone. I can make a video on this phone. I can send it out to anybody. I can get on social media on this phone. And this is you, ladies and gentlemen. I can get on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I can share something. I can post something. I can direct message someone. I can direct message entire companies. I can direct message Nike, who's proven that they're on the left. I can direct message Chick-fil-A. I can direct message anybody I want to. I could even direct message these huge corporations. I could direct message Chase Bank on my phone and get a response from them. That's incredible. Well, I could also call them and get a direct response from them, but you know what I mean. In a public place, in a public forum, I can tweet at them. We live in a wonderful era where that is possible, which is granted incredible power to the people, where they have really a global reach. But at the same time, and again, don't discount this, those very same platforms that allow that to happen have all the more power because they allow it to happen. It's like that Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Or said the other way, with great responsibility comes great power. And that's what these companies have, so let's put them in check. Okay? It's up to us. Even before our congressmen, it's up to us because we elect them. We give them the power. We authorize that through our votes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the family. You know, originally how God intended a family to work. Even if you're not, even if you don't believe in God, that the family unit was supposed to be a man and a woman, and the children. But there's a reason that it was a man and a woman. There are real biological differences. Does a biological man have a uterus, have a womb to which a child can be born? I mean, that's just a yes or no. They either can or they cannot. And if they can, we call them a biological female. And if they cannot, we call them a biological male. Well, obviously we don't say based on who can give birth, but you know what I mean. You get the idea of where I'm going with this. So, I mean, listen, to say that difference isn't there is to deny reality. I mean, it's just a complete denial of what is. But the left will have you believe that that's hate speech and ban you, literally. So we live in crazy times. We live in insane times, and it's very concerning that it's not just the United States, and it didn't just start in the United States at the same time. Okay, it started everywhere at the same time. That's even more concerning to me. That the same agenda. How is that even possible? I don't know. I don't know. It raises a lot of questions for me that I'm afraid to find answers for. Okay, but that's besides the point. Listen, originally, God had intended for there to be a man and a woman for reasons. Okay, a woman is more biologically is more nurturing for a child. A man biologically, I'm talking about the testosterone and the estrogen. The man biologically is meant to be a fighter, a warrior. Okay, to stand up for things that are wrong in society. Okay, so let's not get things twisted. Listen, this is not to say that women can't be strong, but it's to say that why can't women be nurturing? Why can't women be able to just take care of the children and be submissive? What is so wrong with A, being submissive, B, with being a follower? What is wrong with that? I really have to ask, what is wrong with being a woman and raising children? One of the most important jobs out there ever. In fact, arguably the most important job ever is raising the children, raising the next generation. But somehow the notion is out there that that's a job that women shouldn't be taking. That's ridiculous. And into the guise of saying that, oh, well, women have been oppressed. Oppressed by who? Not working, not voting, not doing X, Y, and Z does not mean you're oppressed. It's dangerous. Don't listen to these people. I'm telling you, they're dangerous. They're dangerous in the fact that they lie unequivocally, and the media will back them up. And because the media has been spinning this story for so long, so the society believes this is normal. Okay? This is the real power of these people. You have to be careful. To the point where even if you wear a certain hat, people will unprovoked attack you because your literal hat will provoke them. Okay, that's how much power and how crazy things have gone because of this reckless nature. But again, there's a reason that there was a man and a woman. Okay, one is supposed to be nurturing, the other is supposed to be a protector. Okay, that's not quote unquote gender roles. That's how it is biologically. Okay, I mean, just look at what. It's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. It's crazy. But listen, let's go back to that. There's nothing wrong. We have to start. We have to start the idea out now. We have to bring that idea back because there was nothing wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with a woman staying at home and raising the children. Unfortunately, we've created a society where that's not financially viable. But you can't have two leaders in a household, ladies and gentlemen. And women biologically do not have the testosterone, the actual hormone, in large enough quantities to where they're going to feel strong and able to go out there and lead. It doesn't mean that they cannot, but there's always, I think, biologically going to be an imperative for women to want to stay home, to want to raise a family, to be happier, to feel happier being a housewife or being a mother or following her husband's lead. I feel, that's statistically speaking, that's factually speaking. That's not me inserting my opinion. Women are less happy today with all the freedoms that they've been given than they were in the 1950s. That is a fact. Okay. What happened? What do we let our media, our public schools do to our children? Were we allowed it to gain all this control? To be honest, I think we were asleep. We didn't really notice. We weren't paying attention because it was hidden under the guise of, oh, we're getting more rights. I think we've been hoodwinked, to be honest. So it's up to us. Again, listen, every point I'm going to make it's always going to come back to the same thing, individual responsibility. Jordan Peterson talks about this. Talks about this all the time. It always will come back to individual responsibility, the rights of the people. The right of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it is a pleasure. It is my deepest pleasure to be here to have these kinds of conversations with you. If you like this episode, feel free to smash that like button. Share it with your friends. It really helps out the podcast. I'm telling you, when you hit that like button, it gets us going on the algorithms until the day when they decide, oh, these podcasts, oh, no. It doesn't follow our agenda. It doesn't follow big pharma. It doesn't talk about things that are right. Demonetized on YouTube. And on podcast services, delisted, taken off the air because we don't agree or you offended somebody. So, we got to take you off. Or no monetization for you because your advertisers don't want to advertise with someone who talks about toxic things or whatever. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to fight. Listen, this is a fight. This is a war. I don't know how else to tell you. And when I say fight, I'm not inciting violence. I don't mean in a violent way. I have to say that because they'll say, oh, he encourages violence. But I don't mean it in a violent way. But what I mean the way that I mean it when I say that is, we can't just let them say ridiculous things. We can't just let them say, oh, and, we'll just tax the rich and everybody will be fine and everybody will get free things. That's disingenuous. We have to respond to that with the fact that that's not true. We have to respond with actual facts. That's the case in point. Otherwise, we'll end up with people who believe in something that they don't fully understand. And that's going to be at our hands because remember, we live in a republic where we all vote. And at the end of the day, the person who has convinced the most people, whether telling them truths or not, is going to win. So when I say fight, I don't mean violence. When I say fight, I mean share other ideas. Make sure you get your point across. Okay? Or if someone says, oh, this is true, say, no, that's not. Because it's not. And when you see somebody doing something wrong, if someone gets in your face, if someone does something violent to you, do not, I do not advocate violence at all. But make a scene. Say something. Say, hey, that's not appropriate. That's not nice. That's not cool. This and this and this is actually true. Okay? You do not have a right to just attack someone. You can say that. Don't take it sitting down. If you do, they're just going to take another, I'm telling you, they'll take a mile. Give them an inch, they will take a mile. And we're at a war. 2020 is right around the corner. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be our episode for today. I think I got my point across. I hope I did. But listen, this isn't my point, okay? It's the point of conservatives. It's the point of the people in America who love America for America, who don't see everything as being a race difference or that there needs to be an entire societal restructuring on the basis of social justice. Okay, we see deeper than that. We're looking at the facts. Okay, we're looking at people who are minorities who are doing better now than ever. And this is coming from someone who's not white at all, who sees it, who looks at the facts. Okay, like any normal, sane, rational person would do when they find out that the things that are being spewed on the left aren't actually true. Okay, because I was on the left for a little while. But as I turned and had more of a business acumen mindset, not to become filthy rich, but to understand that there are other sides and other viewpoints of things, I turned around and I said, okay, well, actually, hold on. Something doesn't seem right here. And then I realized that what I was hearing wasn't the facts, wasn't the real thing. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you like this video. If you do like it, be sure to smash that like button, share with your friends. It really helps out the podcast. Be sure to subscribe. Some podcast services base their algorithms on the number of likes. So hopefully we can get out there and reach more people. As always, guys, I really appreciate your help in getting the word out there. I love the fact that you guys are here and that you listen, and you really give me a reason to be here. You give me a reason to share the ideas that I have, or that aren't ideas that belong to me, but ideas that need to be out there, ideas that need to be spread. Okay, real ideas. I can't thank you enough. I really can't. This podcast literally would not exist. So, yeah, it's all for you. It's all about you. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it for today's show. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.